Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Dynamics 365 Tech Talk. Today's topic is process automation for customer collections and vendor payments. My name is Erin, and I will be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this session through Teams live events, and the audio can be heard through your device speakers. This session is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. When you join this event, your name, email address, and/or phone number may be viewable by other session participants in the attendee list. By joining, you are agreeing to this experience. The recording will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within 5 business days. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to your questions during today's session. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Adil Eady, Senior R&D Solution Architect, and Severin Brock, R&D Solution Architect. Severin, over to you to kick us off today.
All right, thank you. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Severin, and I'd like to introduce you to the topic about the process automation framework. I will start with a quick intro, what this framework is about and what is the idea and the motivation we have. And then Adil will take over and will drive you into details about the customer collection process and the vendor payment proposal opportunities we do have available right now in our out-of-the-box product. At the end, we do a Q&A. If you have questions, please use the Q&A panel in the Teams, and we will take care about the questions. Next slide, please. So the process automation. The process automation is a framework we have introduced, and it allows you to simplify the scheduling of processes to run by the batch server. So without this, scheduling a batch task is an activity which is very hard to be done by end users. But with this process automation framework, we do bring a possibility, to simplify this activity. We do have a central administration pane for you in the system administration module. So you are able to see the process automation. You can select specific types, and those types are processes we do support right now. One process is, for example, the collection process. One process is, for example, the vendor payment proposal. If you like to use the collection process, for example, you need to go and enable the feature. So the types are hidden behind a feature flag, which you need to enable in the feature management module. So when you like to use a specific type to automate these tasks, you can use the calendar view to simply schedule and work with a series, similar to Outlook. So you can select, at which date, what sequence you like to do specific collection work, right? And you will see the occurrences. You can change and you can work on those. So you can say, okay, no, I like to pause the next one, I like to move the next one, or I like to change the whole series. So it's really up to you, and it's an end user experience. So you do not need to handle, batch groups, and you do not need to go into system administration module. It's very easy for end users. Adil will show you in a bit. Next slide, please. So we have process types available, as I mentioned: collection process automation, vendor payment proposal automation, and the cash flow forecast automation. It's not like a solution which is only available for us in Microsoft. The process automation framework is able to be extended by yourself. So if you are a partner or if you are a customer, an ISV, you can go and bring your own types into this framework. So we have extension points available. Feel free to extend our solution by using the extension points. The documentation is available on Docs, and I kindly ask you to take a look to the documentation which we are sharing with this Tech Talk. With this quick intro into the process automation framework, Adil, please continue with the details on collections and payments.
Thank you, Severin, for a very nice introduction to the automation process and the process automation framework. Now, what I would like to do is I will basically walk you through the two processes which are available out of box. And the first one is the customer collection process, right? Before we go in, and I will be taking you to the application. So there is some excitement to look forward to. But before we do that, I quickly want to be on the same page with all of you about what the customer collection process is, right? And which part of it is going to be automated within this process automation framework. So collection management is basically an advanced extension to the accounts receivable modules, where it helps you to manage all your activities for your customer collections, right? And basically helps you create all the different steps and activities and to remind your customers and to get your payments out. Right. However, a lot of time is spent by these collection agents to really identify, to research which customers they should be contacting first, which customers have account balances which are, high risk, and which customers or which specific open invoices they need to be running after. And instead of spending time on these things, the process automation framework basically helps them now to spend more time communicating with the exact customers, right? So it basically filters out those customers. It sends out those emails or reminders automatically. It creates all those collection agents activities for them and pushes those activities, by customer to them. So they are basically spending time in discussing it with those with the customers and resolving those disputes, right? Besides that, it obviously helps you streamline it. So if you're relying on your collection agents to do this work manually, you will definitely have different email templates, different processes, different user experience, right, or customer experience. And this helps you to streamline the process. If an email is to go out, if a reminder is to go out, for example, in 3 days before the payment is due, you can basically program it to send it across your organization, right? And so bringing streamlined process in your organization. So with that, I will quickly go to the demo and show you all the things which Severin quickly mentioned as well. So I will now switch to my application. Right, we are in, let me go back to the home screen so I can show you. Right, before I go into the details, right, this was something which Severin mentioned as well, that the functionality must be enabled in the feature management, right? So let's quickly see how it looks like in the feature management, right? And for sure, I have enabled it, so I'm able to use it. But when you go to feature management, it should be in the new or not enabled if you haven't done so already. And when you type collection, you will see that there is a collections process automation. So for this specific feature or type, this feature must be enabled. When you have done that, then in the collections, credit and collections module, you will see that there is collections process setup and process automation feature available. Right, before I go into that, I quickly want to show you some relevant parameters which are important. These also show up when you have enabled the feature. Right, so essentially, so the first one is basically handling of your workload, right? Essentially, what it's doing for you is the process automation is creating those batch jobs on its own without the business users going into the application, playing around with the batch jobs in the system admin module, creating their own filters and criteria, and leading or creating human errors, right? It basically takes away all that pain and lets you handle it. So obviously this kind of helps you if you have high load, and how would you like to handle the BAS task, a technical setup. The other options basically are business related more. So for this one, would you like the system to create the collection letters or also post them? And you can obviously have that set up here. Would you like activities to be created for each automation task? So every occurrence that happens, would you like to have an activity created so you can follow up on that activity as an overall? There is an activity which is created as for that specific invoice or customer, which is part of the process, but this is obviously creating an activity to monitor that. For how many days would you like to keep the history of that automation process, right? So simple rules, right, to maintain the data, as well as this is very important, which was recently added, right? So even after the feature was released, this is whether you would like, if a certain invoice has gone through a process and the complete cycle of 22 reminders and one collection letter, for example, right? Would you want this to be picked up again or not? And if you exclude it, it will not be picked up again. So this is like a very specific control that we have. Now going into the process automation itself, you will notice, and the reason I personally like these this framework, as well as you know, the way they have been designed is in a wizard-based format, which we will actually see as well, right? And the user friendliness of this overall feature, right? So if you see over here that in my process, when I go into the wizard, I can basically create or maintain my existing series. So just a quick check on the terminologies here, that all the processes that we have, they are called types. So process types. So collection process would be a process type. Vendor payment proposal, which is also available, it will be a process type. Within a process type, you can create as many different series as you like, right? So a series like a calendar series you have, right? So same terminology. So you would have a series, and within that series you can have occurrences, right? So if a specific series occurs daily, right, you will see a daily occurrence, and you can maintain and see the results of those. You can see the status of those occurrences. Also, you can manage and maintain them, right? So you can make changes to the specific occurrence. You can disable it if you don't want it to happen, or you can make changes to it as well, right? Or you can create a new occurrence. So going into the details now, let's say I have one created and I will click on edit, so it will take you to the same process. And what I was mentioning earlier was the wizard-based process, right? So when I click on the new or edit, it basically takes me to this, you know, 3-step journey, right? The first one here, it's telling me to give it a name, a description, the scheduled time, and the occurrence pattern. If you would like to set up any alerts, you know, they can be done as well. This is the standard feature, which has been available for long. Now, in the next step, or the next step, as you can see that, you know, and again, I keep on mentioning this, that, you know, usability has been a big focus of this feature, right? And if you see that, you know, on top, there are 3 steps or 3 things which can be configured in this step of the process configuration, right? And a simple definition has been written. What you can do is provided as well, and I will quickly explain as well. So what you can do as part of the collection process automation is basically you can set up a process hierarchy. That's the first thing that you do. Within a process hierarchy, then you do the process details, and then within a process detail, you can set up the different business documents and templates. And I will quickly explain as well what this means is, in this hierarchy, you can basically slice and dice the different customer groups or customer segments that you would have, right? So let's say for example, in my case, I have created 2 different types of customer pools. One with balances less than 1,000, and one all the others, right? Besides those balances. So I would like to have a different treatment for the customers having a balance less than $1,000, and a different treatment or different process for all the other customers, right? So for this one, and how I have done it, I will quickly show you as well, is by creating these customer pools. I'm not sure if this feature has been used earlier by most of you or not, but this basically helps you create these customer pools, and this is used for aging snapshot as well as for collection process as well, right? So you can, using a criteria, differentiate or create different groups of your customers. And by the way, this criteria is not only limited to the normal customer tables, but they go beyond, right? And using the customer aging periods as well as the customer aging snapshot. So this was not possible before, where you were able to differentiate your collection process by, let's say, the amount of balance you have or the amount of invoice, but now you can actually do that, right? So this is an additional added value feature in this overall piece. So in this case, over here, what I have done is that I have two-step process for my balances, which are less than $1,000, right? Where I'm sending them a reminder, a pre-reminder, which is an action type of an email, right? And what different action types are available to you? You can have an email or an activity or a collection letter. So an email is basically usually going out externally, right? It can be to an internal stakeholder as well, but generally it's going out to the customer. You can have an activity. In this case, I have basically created an email that goes out to the customer 3 days before the invoice due date, right? And an activity that gets created 5 days after the invoice due date for my collection agents to basically follow up on the overdue amounts, right? And if you see over here as well that a quick one, that which contact to be used, right, is basically mentioned over here. So the email which is attached to this contact will be picked up, right? And for all the other customers which are beyond $1,000 balance, I would like to have 2 additional steps which are written here. So basically, I'm sending them my collection letter 1 and my collection letter 2. And this is basically, the setups are coming from the normal written collections module, where you could have different settings or different levels of collections, right? And the behavior you would like to do. So if you are blocking the customer, if you are not letting them do any other future transactions, all those setups which are there are still intact, and you can basically tag those, triggering those processes over here, right? And you can mention when you would like to do that. So that's basically it. And the third one is, for example, if I'm basically creating an email, right, or an activity, the third step also integrates and brings together the whole piece of the business documents here, right? So you don't have to go to any other page. From here, you can basically, for example, for the email, you can define the mappings, right? So any of the values that you want to create a dynamic email for your customer, and you would like to bring information from relevant customer tables, you can basically do that by showing those variables, right? As well as having by language, different versions of those different templates, right? So all this is basically possible within that one screen. And these were different, requests and requirements which are coming from different customers, right? So all of the process in that same place, right? And once I've done that, and I click on next, this is my personal favorite, right? Because whenever I'm configuring something, I would like to see if I've done it right or not. And this basically tells me, and kind of, I can come here and confirm whether, and preview whether my selection criteria works or not, right? So when I created those different pools of customers, all the customers and less than 1,000 customers, I can quickly come here and see that. So when I click on this, it will come out and filter that for me. But this is just a preview. Obviously, this list keeps on changing, right? And one important factor to note is that this process, this collection process automation, is heavily reliant on the aging of customer balances, which obviously is something which has been there for long. So if the snapshot does not exist, if your balances have not been aged, if they have not gone through if they have not been marked as overdue, then this process will not pick up those specific invoices or customers, right? So it's really important when you're scheduling it from a scheduling perspective. You must schedule this periodic task always before, so that whenever your collection process runs, it takes the latest information, right? When I click on next, it will basically ask me whether I'm making a change to, you want me to update all the future occurrences or not? And that's a decision we can take. So here I will click on no, right? And because I don't want to make changes to all my occurrences. So it does that. And when it has run, right, you could also click on, you can see here, it's a weekly view, right, which you see of your different runs and what is coming up and what has happened. But over here, for any specific collection process, you can basically see the whole history as well, right? So all those history as well as the future, right? So if I pick up one and I see the results of this, so the results I will show you, they are different enhancements or different uses which have been done of different ways. So in this case, the batch job basically executed properly, but because I am on an environment where the emails are not integrated right yet or configured, so it gave me an error message that the emails could not be processed right. And from here only, I can actually check my log and see that. So this was something that I just wanted to show you. Yes, ideally, we should have also shared or had some log for success message as well. However, when it's successfully done, it basically shows nothing at this point in time. And in the end, once all this is done, then collection agents would ideally get their alerts or their tasks assigned to them, right? Or they could basically come here and see those in the, sorry, just highlighting. They would be able to see their customers and collections process here as well, right? So any activities created from this process automation would come here, right? So I'm just filtering it on my customers, so you kind of get a, so you see that these internal activities of appointments, right, were created from the process automation, right? So this basically sums up this this piece of how to configure collection process. Now, before I go to the next one, I would like to sum it up with some do's and don'ts, right? So it's what we saw. I just would like to kind of sum it up with these design considerations. So, for example, in this scenario, the collection manager would like to have a one-step reminder process for invoices less than 5,000 and two-step process for invoices above 5,000, and would not like to have any reminders sent to 100. How would they do that, right? What would be the do's and don'ts? And now you would not create, obviously you would create automation series, right? Within that one single automation series, you would create two customer pools, one for 5,000 customers, one for less than 5,000 customers, right? And you would make sure that the aging periodic schedule is configured properly. What you will not do anymore, which is more important to keep in mind, is that you will not be creating those different batch jobs or giving access to business users of handling those batch jobs, right, to send out these collection letters, right, mass collection letter processes. That will not be required, and that will be an anti-pattern going forward. So this will not be recommended practice anymore. And second is obviously having a collection process in place, but without alignment of the aging process. That will also not work, right? So with that, I obviously conclude this one. And then I move forward to my next process, which is the vendor payment proposal process, right? This one probably everyone is probably aware of and had been using as a manual step, right? Has been there since the very beginning of the accounts payable module, right? But a quick overview again, just a reminder that what vendor payment proposal they do is when the time of payment comes to your vendors, you can basically create a payment journal traditionally and let the system and basically generate a manual payment proposal. And that payment proposal basically picks up all those vendors that you want to pay and that you should be paying, right, based on the due date or based on the cash discount, right? And you wait a few minutes and it basically generates the list for you. Now you won't need to do that. You won't need to create the manual payment journal. You won't need to go and click on generate payment proposal and let the system really do that. You set up the schedule, you would define the schedule, you would have the different criterias, and let the system basically do that for you. At this point in time, this process only creates the journals and creates the proposals for you, but does not automatically post the payments for the right reason. Because we all know before payments, you would need to have your necessary validations and approvals in place, right? But it takes away the manual headache as well as the chance for any human error from this function. With that, I will take you back to my application screen. Just give me a second. Right. And this time I will go to the vendor payments. Before I do, again, quickly would like to show you in the feature management, you must enable this process as well on this feature. It will be called vendor payment process automation, right? This must be enabled before you can make use of it. And once you have done it in the accounts payable, you will see process automation. Yes, they're all called process automation within their relevant modules. So could be a bit confusing, but yes, definitely more improvements coming ahead. So if you see here again, right, a quick reminder that in this one now, you will see that the schedule type is called vendor payment proposal. And in the schedule type of vendor payment proposal, I can create again as many series that I want to have, right? And within that series, I will have different occurrences. I will go to one of my already created ones. Before I go into the wizard part of it, just quickly to show you how different the implementations could be and the possibilities of the extensions of this framework. So if you see that now in this case, this occurrence has completed. But over here, we are also showing, and this is even enhanced usability, right? In this case, where the value of the payment journal that was created or the payment proposal is also mentioned, the link to the payment journal is also mentioned over here. So when the process gets completed and you get an alert, you can basically just click through it and go to that specific vendor payment journal, right? And it basically takes you over there. You could go to the lines and, do the rest of the process like you would normally do. So this is just to show you some of the possibilities, right? Now, if I click on edit, again, it's the same nice looking wizard where you get to name the different process series. Mine one is pretty obvious. No description. You could have a description for for business purpose, the schedule in place, whether you would like to have it, daily, weekly, or however you would do that, any alerts, right? Similar. This one is a two-step process. So, obviously all these processes can be adapted or to specific process types, right? Now in this one, again, a brief explanation as well over here. Nice little explanation to basically help you with what all these means, and I will quickly go through them, right? There is one exciting feature as well, which is now available. So you select the payment journal, which journal series you would like system to use, right? And you can have a different payment journal by different payment series, right? The criteria, whether you would like to use the due date, cash discount, or both, when considering which invoices to be picked up. The one that I was mentioning, the exciting feature is the date criteria, which was not available earlier. So now you can also set the date fencing, right? So if you would like to, for example, every last Friday of the month, you make your payments, right? But you would only like to, or you make, for example, you make payments on Wednesdays, but you would like to consider the invoices which are also due the next 2 days, that is till the end of Friday. Then you can do that by enabling this feature, right, and setting the number of days. And it can be other way around by actually just putting in -2 days. So if you would like to, limit it. So let's say you are doing a payment run on Monday, but you would only like to pick invoices which were due till Friday, for example, right? So you could do all those settings. Payment currency, which payment weekday, which offset account, the bank account you would like to use, all the different features to summarize your payments, right? Are there. How would you like to present them or create the journal for them? The standard available functionalities to delete the negative payments, check when the balances are all there. And this one is important one, that if you are doing centralized payments, so the process automation is not limited to within a legal entity, but it spans across the legal entities, right? So if you are basically paying in a specific legal entity for vendors across, right, you can basically do that as well, right? Besides these simple criteria, obviously you would like to have a process differentiated by different groups of vendors, different types of vendors, and you can do that by going into the filter criteria, right? And this is our very famous, well-known filter screen, which has been since the beginning, right? So don't need to go into the details, and you can basically use any of the related tables to filter those records. Once you're done, you basically click finish, and no, like last time, you're done, and the occurrences will be created for you. So in this case, I have an occurrence that happens daily, right? So you see the scheduled one as well. This is the sweet little process configuration for the payment proposal process type. One more thing, and the possibilities, right, of this control especially, is being able to even embed it in, let's say, the workspaces, and it gives a very nice view. So you kind of get an idea. So you see the process automation calendar view is also embedded in your workspace in this case, right? And over here, a specific user can basically, if they are not obviously using the alerts or any other push-based mechanism, they can always come here and have a look at, the process that has happened and the details of that process as well. Right. So this was the configuration part. Now I go back to my slides and also discussing the design considerations. Just a quick, to wrap it up, just a quick summary again, the do's and don'ts. In this case, I have a business scenario where I would like to pay 2 different types of vendors, my priority global vendors on a different date, 7th of every month, and my standard vendors at a different date. And I would have different requirements and considerations. So how would I do that? I would create now 2 automation series, right? In this case, if you see the difference, in this one, you would have to create 2 different automation series because the criteria is applied at the series level, right? The collection one was a bit different in the sense that you could actually have a hierarchy, behind a hierarchy attached to the series, right? And basically have multiple hierarchies for the customer. So different processes, different setups. You would use the invoice selection criteria to handle the due dates and the discounts and the optimal use of cash discounts, and you would use the centralized payment option available for the global vendors, right? What you should not be doing anymore, or the best practice would not be to push for manual creation of payment journals, just to avoid any human errors and to obviously automate all those tedious tasks. Right, and certainly you will not be, if you're a consultant or an SI, you would not be going for any customizations in the payment proposal process, or you would not be creating any custom batch jobs. In case if the out-of-box process is not sufficient enough, you can always extend the framework itself, right, or create additional processes itself, right. So I will, with that, there was one, and this is basically the end of the presentation. We move into the Q&A. However, before I hand it over to Severin, I think one question that came in already and was about how the legacy collection letter process or are they used with the automation. So when I showed you that you can create the process details, over there, you are not basically creating new collection letters, right? So the collection letters setups that you already did, you will basically be just going in and picking those up, right? And from that filter and selecting those. So whatever that you set up, you will be reusing it over here. So you don't have to recreate your collection letters. Yeah. Severin, back to you.
Yes.
For the Q&A. And I'm also here if any questions.
I think this was the only question which got asked 2 or 3 times, which is not answered on the chat. So there's one question right now about the payment journals, but about the electronic payment files. So please take care that this is just about the creation of the payment journals. So the creation of the files, I mean, this is something which you would do afterwards, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So the creation as of now, it's creating the payment journals, but the steps after those are to be done by the relevant payment clerk or the payment agent. Yeah.
I think the rest of the questions we have are answered. So in my point of view, we are good. Erin, up to you.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm posting a link to a short survey right now in the Q&A panel. So you should see that pop up. We'd love to get your feedback on today's session and hear what you'd like to see in future events. Thank you again for your participation today. As a reminder, the recording of today's session will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within 5 business days. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters and, of course, the audience for joining us today. We wish you a wonderful rest of your day wherever you may be.